monetization, discovery, acquisition, these are questions that I think have been coming from the audience all day. So hopefully the people that stuck around were the ones who wanted to have those questions answered by our panel. So let's start on the end here and see if I can get this right. At least he's got a t-shirt on so I can be clear on what company he's from. Is he? Right. Okay, excellent. Matthew Clementson from Hutoma.ai. Why don't you tell us a little about your company and yourself?
Sure, that's us, Hutoma.ai. We are a platform to build chatbots on top of with NLP included. On top of that, we're a marketplace, and essentially we believe that bots are a way to expose services, and we call those services skills. So in the marketplace, those skills can be combined together, and we provide a place that these can be edited. Essentially, the API remains the same, but the language that is used changes. And essentially, the store allows people to combine those together.
Great. And then, you're not Audrey.
I am not.
Matthew Black.
What's up?
Managing partner, Black Ops. Tell us a little about Black Ops and yourself.
Yeah, totally. So Black Ops is a boutique digital agency. We're in New York City. We exclusively focus on conversational interfaces. That's all we do. And I guess what that means is we provide a series of services specifically for conversational interfaces. Not only do we do development, but we do strategy, and more recently, media buying, which is something I'm really excited to talk to, and I think is where I'll probably provide the majority of the value on this panel.
Excellent.
All right,
Audrey.
good afternoon, everyone.
Wow, okay, let's hear it.
Come on, wake up. I know there's no coffee. Sorry. I'm Audrey. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Converge. Converge is an end-to-end chatbot development company. We work with brands like Proactive, Shopify, H&M. So mostly beauty and retail brands is our forte.
And then last we have Dan Gailey here from Radbots. You look a little different than your photo.
I just got back from Burning Man.
Excellent.
Yeah. So I'm Dan from Radbots. Some of you may know what we do. We do ad and recommendations for chatbots. We try to help you monetize as best as possible. We are also now trying to, we are launching kind of a cryptocurrency to help people monetize on their data. So I'll be talking about that a little bit as well.
When is your ICO?
September 30th. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, the third one today. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Excellent. Acquisition. So let's just jump to the question I think everybody was asking is like, how do you approach chatbot acquisition, and like what is the most effective channel or approach that you have found to get users to a chatbot? Since you're holding the mic, why don't you just go ahead?
I was going to talk about monetization, but
we can go there. Next question, but why don't you start with acquisition first, and then we'll talk about monetizing those users once you get them there.
Okay, so you're talking about discoverability, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So this is a huge problem, as we all know. And I think that right now, I think the core of the problem right now is that engineers trying to solve a marketing problem, not marketers trying to solve a problem. Because you wouldn't ask a marketer to code, would you? You wouldn't. So why are you having engineers trying to solve a problem that's actually a human-based problem? So, you know, it's not an answer, but it's just sort of like where I feel things are right now. In terms of discoverability, Kik has a really, really good bot shop. So when we got a promoted bot, our Shopify bot, we saw a ton of traffic within the first week or two. That works really well. I think Facebook lags in terms of UI for bot discovery. I think they just launched some new feature today, and it's still kind of wonky. So that's why it leads me to believe that they're kind of not designing for people, but designing tech for tech's sake. That's my thought.
Totally. I'll tail right off of that. So what's the best acquisition channel, right? That depends. That depends on so many different factors, right? Like one of the strengths about a chatbot, which I really happen to like, is that you have this advantage, and it's called speed to market, right? And if you do that right, you can actually start validating things a lot earlier, right? But at the same point, it doesn't give you an excuse to ignore the fundamentals of what actually running a business is. And ultimately, if you're monetizing, you're trying to run a business. So that is a very long conversation, but I definitely think it depends. And if we want to zero in on something like paid, I could talk a little bit about those.
Yeah, let's zero in on paid.
Yeah, so Facebook has an interesting method of exposing a special way to advertise a bot. And what I mean by that is when the destination is a chatbot and not a website versus a mobile app. There is a special way to do that. It's a hybrid approach in that you almost program the way. Their mechanism is called structured JSON. And when you leverage that, you actually expose really interesting things. So the chatbot, or I'm sorry, the ad can actually influence the experience in the chatbot. Ultimately, you end up seeing better conversion, and you end up having a better experience for the user. So that is I guess that's more of like a marketing 101 thing, but you definitely want to, learn the fundamentals of marketing, and then you want to leverage the platform you're on. In this case, it just happens to be chatbots.
Okay, so I think this depends at what stage you're looking at, and I think really early stage Product Hunt works really well for chatbots. Posting on there, I've noticed a couple of companies have managed to say get 15,000 users very quickly. However, the users that do sort of sign up and start chatting, they don't stick around generally because the audience on Product Hunt is so large. But it's really good early on if you just want to test out some copy, see how people are interacting with your bot, and just base something that you can iterate on further down the line.
Yeah, so I mean, I think everyone kind of touched on it. I think at different stages of your bot, there's different methods of acquiring new users. I always like word of mouth, which is a really good, I think, just metric on both the utility of your bot. Is it interesting? Like somebody built a cryptocurrency bot recently that told them like the price of all the crypto currently, right? And people talked about that nonstop in like multiple Facebook groups that I was in. And so I think that's probably one of the best ways just to get new users is to provide inherent utility. Like,
go ahead.
What we've seen actually, and this is coming more from a marketing perspective, is that virality happens when you have shareable content. So when you're talking about word of mouth or press, it's great, right? But you're going to get people who are nerds like us, not actual people who might be using this day to day. So for us, we always try to throw in some sort of contest where if you share this post, with your friends, you get entered into a contest or, some sort of content sharing that's interesting enough that it becomes something viral to people who actually will use your bot versus technologists and hobbyists, which, I think it's more important to reach a broader audience.
Right, so it's like the basics of most internet products for the last 10, 15 years, right? Build virality into your product if you can, going all the way back to Hotmail. You have paid acquisition, but as we know, it's not cheap and maybe not effective. And then there's organic, Product Hunt, other sites or places that any of you would recommend. Product Hunt is one that's come up a few times today.
Botlist was pretty.
Botlist
was pretty instrumental in Radbots early on. Seth Louis did a really great job of promoting us. I know he was kind of really a fledgling Botlist web app at the time, and it got us a lot of attention from a lot of the bot development community. Again, it's about finding ways to target the audience you'd like to target and figuring out what sites they visit to learn the newest, latest, greatest, whatever, right?
And you mentioned discovery in the store, at least on Kik, right?
Yeah.
Is there anyone else who's been successful with directories or the things built in app, the Facebook tab, or any of those things?
In my experience, Kik is the best. I mean, I've deployed multiple bots on Kik, and anytime they're in the discovery bot and they're in the star positions, tremendous amount of traffic comes through.
I can't speak too much on the Discover tab specifically. In our experience, both building bots for ourselves and external for a few brands, the Discover tab has provided almost no value. And I'm just being honest, but what I can say is I definitely think there's going to be something promising for chat extensions in that there's going to be a inherent viral nature to taking bots inside of a conversation. So I know of a bot, I'm talking to you. Oh yeah, sweet. And I think that will help the Facebook ecosystem and ideally maintain Kik.
Yeah, well, one of the things that's interesting about Kik is because it's a younger audience, so we're talking about a very different type of consumer behavior. The first touch point they have, it's not a laptop, it's a phone, an iPad. So the inherent friction between a younger demographic is not there as much as it is with Facebook Messenger. It's an older demographic. And when you're talking about a younger group, they're much more engaged, much more interested in using this. And most of our clients now are actually not wanting to deploy on Facebook Messenger. It's very strange. I mean, I'm getting a lot of Kik requests, and I'm getting a lot of on-web chats. But Facebook has an inherent problem, and it's trying to solve it, and it just doesn't, I don't know what your CPAs are when you run ads, but I imagine, yeah, it depends. But they're probably not as cheap as a regular ad. I mean, I don't know. I haven't run any ads, but...
I mean, I could tell a story. Maybe start there.
Sure.
Definitely don't want to hog the mic, though. Yeah, I mean, so we worked with this, I guess it was like a bot first startup. I hate that word, but let's call it what it is. A bot first startup. It was a fintech company in LA. And before we started working with them, they provide student loan debt consolidation. So a service that's targeted towards millennials. And they were buying all their users on Facebook. So they were doing standard paid social acquisition, sending them to a landing page where they would fill out a form, and then they would smile and dial and call and provide a service, right? All through the funnel, when it was said and done, they ended up paying about $17 a user. They contacted us to build a bot, and initially their focus was on efficiency. So who cares if we even, we can even pay more for this user, but let's save the sales agents inside from an efficiency standpoint. What we had found is that through interesting acquisition methods, so a smart ad, correlates to a smart bot experience. The dialogue is personalized, it's intimate, it provides a much better conversion from ad to bot. So what ended up happening is we ended up saving money on the CPA right off the top, and ultimately a cheaper conversion. So that's one story. We also have stories where we haven't, so it just depends.
Great, I like it. Why don't we switch gears and talk about monetization? What is your perspective on monetization? We've heard about a couple of categories, right? We talk with brands where they have some kind of paid service for a large customer. Then we talk to people about conversational commerce, which was popular maybe like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. It's still a very obvious business model. I'm curious to understand what you guys think about monetization and what advice you have for people who perhaps are looking at that for their company.
Sure. So I think the companies that I've seen do well at this are using bots as just a part of their monetization strategy, and it's just another platform to deliver content over. So I think something like The Economist, for example, they produce content, they run ads that run you straight into a chatbot, and from there they start delivering content, providing value quite quickly. But from there, they're able to find out preferences from yourselves and then take information and push you to their main monetization source, which is The Economist, digital and print copies. So I think using it as part of a larger strategy is probably the key thing to do.
So we built a bot in partnership with Shopify. So it's essentially like the eBay shop bot, except it's like everything was on Shopify. And we built this for a Gen Z audience. So we're talking 13 to 18-year-olds because it lives on Kik. And we're actually really surprised by our results. What it is a shopping bot, and it helps you pick out the perfect item for yourself. And we didn't really think anybody was actually going to buy anything from it. And this is a rev share agreement we have with them. But a couple of interesting facts. So we take them through a quiz flow because we really want to understand what type of personalized experience they should get and what kind of products they should get. And then, we serve up a whole bunch of products that fit within that category. We were really surprised that 70% of our users completed the entire quiz flow. And within that, we saw a conversion rate about 2 to 3%, which is we didn't expect that at all. And that's from top of funnel. So if you kind of compare that to email marketing, where maybe 17% of people open your email and then you get 1% conversion, it's pretty big. And I'd say we didn't have a ton of users, maybe 30,000. It's not a ton. But it was a good litmus test for us to see how actually to conduct transactions within a bot And since it's in partnership with Shopify, all the payments get processed by them. So it's really nice that we don't have to handle any of that vendor management side.
Cool. Yeah. So we do ads and recommendations. So what we've been, I launched something called Persona DB, which was a hybrid schema cloud database key value store, and a bunch of companies that we're kind of working with went like self-hosted targeted ads for audience personas that they've built. So they've collected data and now they want to create personas that they can target. That's been a big feature that we'll be pushing out soon. Yeah, I think that's probably one of the most requested things out there right now for us in terms of just like monetization, right? There's also, I think, an opportunity that we haven't seen yet of bots recommending other bots transactions. So we built something called Network, which is kind of a tokenization of a session that you can pass to other bots. And we're going to be building that into recommendations. So if one bot recommends another that leads to a transaction, you can get like kind of a referral kickback thing. So that's where I think the future is kind of headed, is like multi-agent systems kind of working together to accomplish some directive.
Yeah, what are some other perspectives on where discovery is headed, right? There's affiliate models that are emerging. We know that the major applications are going to improve at least their discoverability through better search. Paid is starting to emerge as a way that people are focusing on getting acquisition. I'm curious to hear more perspective on where you think this is all headed. Is it all about paid? Is it a mix? What do you think?
Well, part of the services we're offering right now is to work with our clients in part of their 360 marketing campaign. So this is no longer a standalone product. It is a part of a full-on marketing campaign, and I'd say most of the bots we're building now are going to be evergreen. So with this, you know, we work with them to devise a strategy, and that way, through multiple channels, the bot is introduced to different audiences, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on an ad, or, you know, I think my co-founder spoke earlier today about BeautyCon, which was basically taking online to offline. That works as well. There's just a lot of different ways to do it if you think it from a digital marketing perspective. There's just so many touch points, and that's a really big part of our services right now.
That's cool. That's interesting. I like that cross-messaging stuff. So, you know, obviously paid's going to remain one of the most important because, you know, when you look at Facebook, you're increasing the value of their inventory. So, of course. Another thing that, you know, we actually started recently talking to some of our clients with is a lot of, especially more innovative brands that take risks, they do influencer marketing. It's almost one of their main channels for acquisition. So we started looking into interesting ways on how we could almost create parallel roads to our bot. So, you know, at the top level, it's, you know, if you were to go in, right on the Facebook page, hit message, and you get an experience that is the brands talking to you. But in parallel, you're able to allow an influencer to take over. Right? And we're making use of this in the offline world using things like parametric QR codes. So, you know, each one of us could have our own QR code, take a picture of it, and you get the bot experience as I would tell it. And this is something that is very new, but I definitely think it's going to be an additional channel for acquisition, especially brands that, you know, live or die by that stuff.
I think that's going to be super important for large brands, you know, companies that are producing physical products. We spoke earlier about, you know, Coke cans that you could scan parametric codes on, but that could be applied to basically any physical products. And I think any, you know, small chains that have physical stores, like, you know, an ice cream shop, something like that, small restaurants, you can deliver the menu through that. And then basically you get access to that consumer for, you know, a period of time afterwards that you can, you know, deliver coupons and targeted messaging to further down the line. I think it's something that's possibly been missed right now is the ability to use normal applications as a method to deliver chatbots, basically. I'm sure some of you have possibly seen Quartz as a conversational app, and I think that's one way to, you can push adverts to a normal application in the store, and from there you could possibly migrate those people over to another channel if you so wanted. But I'm sure you can get engagement through applications.
What about subscriptions? That's been like the one model I haven't heard a lot about today. We've talked about commerce, which is really obvious, and then we have like sponsorship, which also always emerges pretty early in these spaces. It's a model that's actually proved pretty successful on iOS, right? Paying a monthly subscription. They have a lot of features that allow you to do that. Does anyone think that the subscription model is the future? I mean, you mentioned The Economist, which ultimately is subscription-based model for their entire business. And we had a presenter earlier in the healthcare space that actually had a subscription model. I was curious what people think about that.
Give 2 cents. Yeah, I mean, subscriptions, I think, is twofold. I think, if you look at a subscription service, like let's take, a streaming service, right? DirecTV Now. There's, 4 different plans. If you go to their website, it's very complex. You don't know which plan is for you. So, those are examples where you could use a conversational interface to dial down, right? 7 questions, and do you like sports? Do you like football? And you are presented with a plan that more or less is personalized to you. So that's on that end of the spectrum when your service or product is a subscription. On the other end of the spectrum, let's say you are a personal trainer, and the good you sell is a digital service. Maybe it's an ebook, and every week you digitally meet with your personal trainer. That, I think, is a huge opportunity. I think, obviously all of us in this room are a little bit ahead of the market, but I think we're getting to the point where people in the industry that provide a digital service on a recurring basis, there's an opportunity in messaging where you can provide transactional services in a subscription model like that. That's what I think, in my humble opinion.
I agree. I think anything that's providing you some value add, whether it's training or news, but it's got to be a good experience, right? I'm not going to subscribe to some janky ass bot. Like, that's just not happening. It's got to be nice. It's got to be giving me good stuff. The Quartz bot is really good. I actually would pay for that. It's one of the best spots out there. But, just coming down to it, if you're learning something, if it's a trainer or if it's a teacher or if it's like a Udemy bot, like these things are useful. And these things I would pay for as a consumer. But if it was just like, oh, pay me for some random content, I probably would not.
We see basically bots as a way to expose SaaS applications, and most SaaS applications, charge on a monthly basis. So for me, there's no reason why you couldn't do that for a bot. And the way we're approaching this at Hootoma is that you can expose these services within our store and combine these together within the chatbot building platform. And essentially, we're then just another marketing platform for those services that you then go and sign up and pay on a monthly, recurring basis for.
Great. So we have about 10 minutes. So before we break for questions, why don't we just have our panelists, so it's the end of the day, just give us your final thoughts, like where you think the bot space is going and what you think is going to be the future for discovery and acquisition.
I think in the short term, it would probably benefit us all if bots and conversational interface were considered basically first-class citizens in any operating system experience. I think a lot of the conversational interfaces are too buried, require too much activation energy to engage with. And and that leads to this like really broken feedback loop of product development. And so I'd like to see that come, more to the surface. In the long run, I'd eventually like to see just it all disappear and become really just an integrated part of our lives where we wake up and our technology is more ambient, like ambient intelligence, and can kind of participate in life with us and not be this kind of thing we have to have this cognitive overhead to participate in, right? So that's kind of my short and long term.
Less philosophical, but I think one of the first things we need to do is stop making bots that suck, because people automatically think, oh, bots suck. So why would I even go try to look for a bot? It's like going to a junkyard trying to find something, Make better bot experiences, then people will come. You know, it's just like we're in the GeoCities of bots right now. Flashing blinkers. I think somebody else just talked about that in the panel before. It's all ugly. And it's going to take a couple years. You know, I'm not saying this is going to happen this year or next year, but, you know, we all got to grow with it. You got to listen to your users. So whether it is your customer or it's the user base that your customer has, you have to listen to them. And user experience is very, very critical. So, you know, persona creations, understanding who you're talking to, having a brand voice, these are all things that are going to make your bots sticky. So other than discoverability, you want to keep people engaged long term, you know, because we're going to be held up to these metrics that everybody else is being MAU, DAU. These are all going to be KPIs that we have to be accountable for.
Yeah, my answer will probably be right in the middle of these two. Yeah, I mean, you know, there's strengths and weaknesses to chatbots, and I think you know, I've heard almost everyone say that at some variation on this panel, and you know, it's okay to be completely transparent and say, you know what, that experience does not belong in a conversational interface. Just put it on a website, put it on an app. That is the right thing to do. And when you don't follow those rules, you end up providing a chatbot that sucks, right? And I think, you know, we're seeing a lot of that now because we don't know what are going to really shine to the top. We haven't had that kind of, you know, holy shit, aha moment. That's it. That's what this interface is for. Everyone followed that standard. I think we're going to get there. I think we're going to get there actually this year. You know, and that is probably what I'm going to leave with. You know, you just really have to be completely transparent and be honest about who your users are, how you service them, and build something that is unique to the platform and not to you as a company.
So I think first we've probably got a few challenges to overcome in terms of, I'd say everyone knows Messenger at the moment, and the fact that open rates for chatbots are, you know, huge, you know, 5 times higher than they are for email right now. But at some point, the number of bots on there that are passing notifications to you is going to become huge, and Messenger are going to have a choice. Do they keep those in the normal, you know, your normal inbox, or do they have a tab that's specific to bots? And in that case, as soon as you create a tab like that, open rates are likely going to fall. So there's a few use cases that I think that are going to be super useful and should remain in bots, and they're use cases where you're not going to use them frequently. It's something you might pick up you know, once a month, something like going to the cinema and you just want to check the film times at your local cinema. You should be able to search Cineworld and, you know, search for a certain time, and it's there. But then it doesn't need to touch you for until the next time you go. Whereas I think things that you want richer experiences on, you're going to talk to every day, they should be done on other platforms. So I think that's where we are.
Yeah, I'll give you my perspective. I agree with Dan that yes, that Amazon Prime is the future, and that the convergence of passive data collection along with massive accumulations of personal data in some degree makes user experience interface design go away. And I think that the long term, most applications will know what we want in before we do, and we won't have to actually interact with them to get what we want. So with that note, let's just take a few questions, and then Stefan around, we can close it out. So does anyone ask any final questions of our panelists? Yes? I'm sure you'd have a terms of service with the platform that it's on. So sorry to jump in there. Correct. And you'd have to sign an agreement to be a developer to be on the platform, and then the platform would own the rights to all the data. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I think it's possibly hard to police right now, but if enough people were to complain, you know, there are terms of services that have been breached and you've signed to as being a developer, and for us as a platform, allowing our developers to build a bot that was on Messenger, there are terms of services that we've had to agree to. So I think, you know, if someone does complain, then there is a process to eject someone.
So I've talked to some lawyers that are actually cracking down on this. They think that every bot should start off with a terms of service. And I'm like, no, that's the worst user experience on the planet. But I'm noticing now that there are some bots now that have you check the terms of service. So I think it's the wild, wild west right now, but I know attorneys are looking into it, which means they're going to take all the fun out of bots. But yeah, but it's a wild, wild west. I don't know. We'll find out.
Any other questions? Yeah? One more in the back. Chatbot
Yeah,
that
sure.
exploded.
By the way, I love Bot Society. We do all our stuff on there. Yeah, so I actually have a fun story, and one that was completely unexpected. So we, April 2016, F8 bots get announced, everyone freaks out, right? We did too. So we, the team, we were fans of UFC, so we saw that UFC had an open API. So we decided to build one of the first chatbots, unofficial UFC chatbot. And this was before advertising, so the question's like, okay, cool, this is done. How do we acquire users? We actually, in being tinkers, we went to Reddit, bought out the subreddit for UFC 153, and this was insane. This was we ended up getting users in at 3 cents per click, and it's just because it was the right time and the right place. So there's always it's like with any company, any startup, be positioned to take advantage of luck. And I still think we have a little bit of luck going on in this industry. There is still early mover advantage for the right brands, the right use cases, and they're still out there. So interesting story.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, for me. So a little bit of disclosure. I think Seth might still be here. I used to be head of studios at In Person. So when you get to work with bots for Disney, yeah, obviously those go crazy. And you don't even really need to do any promotion around it. All you have to do is just put a post on the page. And like, for example, like I think we did the Zootopia bot, and that just went crazy within a few days. So it's luck. It's a lot just like, well, working at Disney is a very special brand. So people are super crazy about it, and they'll do whatever. But it's hard. I don't think there's any bots that are crazy runaway successes right now because we're still trying to figure out this ecosystem.
So we have one that was kind of a big one, and has nothing to do with Radbots. Literally, is us going to like Guardians of the Galaxy and deciding to build a baby Groot bot because what is easier than something replying with animated GIFs and saying "I am Groot." And all of a sudden, to this day, literally every day, somebody has an intimate conversation with something that just replies with "I am Groot." And it gets tagged in everything as Baby Groot, which is just hilarious to see, like, just everyone on Facebook tagging everything with Baby Groot. And I think that, like you said, there's real opportunities for brands to tap into this thing, and they really should get on it because I don't see them doing that just yet, right? But there's a ton of potential still.
One quick more story. To go more towards our brands, we launched an SMS bot for BarkBox, which